My name is Dawn Simmons, and I'm going to share, it's recording, I'm going to share my story with y'all today. And my goal is that it's just not another story, that it'll truly transform you to help y'all make better decisions as y'all begin to drive and as y'all begin to get older. So, this is my family. I am mama to these 9. This was in 2016, a few years ago, at my oldest son Ren's wedding. Um, so this is one of the probably the latest pictures that I have when we were all together, because a lot of my children are grown and they've moved to other states, so it's just kind of hard to get a family picture, as they get older. So this is my family right here. And here's just a little bit more recent picture. This is me, my husband Ray, Ren, Katie, Shay, Rhett, Carly, Kyle, and Lindy, Christopher, and Cameron. So on December 17th of 2021, Christopher had a basketball game in Monroe, and we went to that game. We were on our way home on I-49 South, and a drunk driver hit us head on that night. And Lindy, Christopher, and Cameron lost their lives that night because of one man's decision to get behind the wheel. So it is something that has changed my family forever. Our family will never be the same because of this man's decision. So just want to tell you a little bit about each one. This is Lindy. Lindy was 20 years old at the time of the crash. She was a sophomore at Nichols State University. Lindy was our memory maker. She videoed, photographed, and documented everyday life. I mean, it's because of her that we were able to share our story to the extent that we did, because we had so much footage and so much pictures and so much videos of them. So she was a phenomenal photographer. Her pictures stood out just leaps and bounds above anyone else her age. I mean, she was literally born with a camera in her hand. Lindy was the most creative person I have ever known in my life. It was just so beautiful to watch her. I could just watch her little face, and I could just tell she was creating something in her mind. And it was just always just a beautiful masterpiece. It was truly her gift from God, her creativity, her photography skills, and she was just she also drew. She, in fact, if any of you or any of y'all interested, like, do y'all sketch or draw, have any interest in art or anything? Well, I have a few of her pictures here. When we're done, y'all welcome to have them. We made copies of some of her artwork, and we got her signature, made a rubber stamp of it, so it's like every piece of her work we were able to stamp, so that's actually her signature on it. But she was just such a creative person. At the time of the crash, she was in marketing at Nichols, but the president of Nichols had just hired her to do her dream job, which she was just hired as the campus photographer. That was in November of 21. She was supposed to start that position in January of 22, but unfortunately that day never came for her. So she was just, she loved life. She lived it to the fullest. And like I said, she was our memory maker. We have so many videos of her and Cameron in Walmart. They would find an aisle where nobody was. Lindy would set up camera. They would do little dances, little spins. I mean, things that are really insignificant, but it was just what they did every day. And I can tell you, things like that are so meaningful to me today. It's not just the big events like the weddings, the birthdays, the graduations. Those things are very important. But I tell you, it's the everyday life that she filmed that today I can look back on. And that is the thing that I treasure the most. We have video of Cameron at the eye doctor. She's trying to read the little sign, and Lindy's on the down low filming, and her caption reads, "This girl can't read with a skeleton head." She just filmed just, I mean, everyday life, and it was just such, so y'all film, y'all, film everything, even the things that you think are insignificant, because you just never know what that'll mean someday. Lindy, she loved Kendra Scott jewelry. I don't know if any of you girls in here, y'all familiar with Kendra Scott? Well, Lindy just loved Kendra Scott from when she was a little girl. And then after they passed away, Kendra Scott had contacted us, and they have been just working with us ever since. And actually, they released, Kendra Scott named the necklace after her. It's called the Lindy. And it's more of a dressy piece, so they're actually going to do another one in the fall. But this one that I have on here is one that Lindy's known for. Like in a lot of her pictures, she has this red Kendra Scott necklace on. So she was just such an amazing girl. She loved life. She loved to laugh. The laughter is one of the things that I miss most in my home. Since losing the kids, the silence is so loud in my house. It's like my house has lost its soul. There was just so much laughter always in my home, and it's just so quiet now. Lindy was homecoming queen for her senior year. Her and I shared a love of coffee shops. One of her favorite places to get coffee is Jet Coffee. So Jet Coffee has also worked with us in memory of Lindy. So it's just so many beautiful things have come from this. But this was so preventable. This should not have happened. So that's just a little bit about Lindy. And here's some of her artwork right there. You can just see, this is her filming. I mean, she literally filmed everything just to show how some of her drawings had progressed. But I'm left to wonder, what would she be doing today? What would she have achieved? What goals and what dreams would she have accomplished? And this is Christopher. Christopher was 17 at the time of the crash. He was a junior in high school. Christopher was just such a remarkable young man. He was very academically driven. He was well on his way to be valedictorian of his class. At the time of the crash, he had scored, his highest score on the ACT was a 26, and he was striving for a 32. 32, I'm sorry. So actually on the way to that basketball game, it was the last day of school before Christmas break, and we were talking about the ACT. He said, "Mom, I have about 7 or 8 more times to take it." He said, over the break, he said, "Let's get together and I need to order some study guides in science and math." He said, "Those are the 2 areas," he said, "I need to bump my score up." So he was just very academically driven. He also was an amazing athlete. He actually won first team All-State in basketball that year. He had received the Golden Glove Award, and he was going to pursue football for the following year for his senior year. Him and I shared a love for sports. It's something that he and I did a lot together. We spent countless hours in the yard throwing the baseball, playing basketball, throwing the football. It's one of the things I'm so grateful for when I come home from work, that I never told him I was too tired to go in the yard and play with him. So we spent a lot of time together doing sports. This is Christopher's little girlfriend, Marissa. She was in the crash with us as well. Her and I were the only 2 to survive that night. But Christopher was truly a remarkable young man. He was known for his integrity. If Christopher gave you your word, if Christopher gave you his word, you could count on it. He was such a young man of integrity. So this is just a little bit. Oh, he wanted to go to college to be a software engineer. His oldest brother Ren is a software engineer. He had already begun doing some coding classes. Him and a friend of his had already begun to make a video game. And at 16, he got his first job, and he was already had a Robinhood account. He was buying and selling stocks. Christopher just had his future planned out meticulously, and I am just confident that whatever he had put his mind to, that he would have achieved it. He was very, very goal oriented. What he set his sights on, he put in the work, that whatever that meant, to achieve it. So he was truly just such a remarkable young man. So for him to do that, you know, he loved Marissa. He would have never done that for anybody else unless they asked. But they were just the cutest little couple. They had planned on going to Nicholls State University together. They had their plan. They had their future planned out. They had told me that when they were going to get married, that they were going to beat me. They were going to have 10 kids. So just goes to show you, you know, with the loss of these kids, it's not just that loss. You know, there were marriages to be taking place. There were grandchildren, just so many. It's just such a ripple effect when things like this happen. You know, every single day, my day is difficult dealing with the loss of these kids. From one decision that one selfish man made to get behind the wheel and drive intoxicated. And this is my baby girl, Cameron. Cameron was 15. She was a sophomore in high school, just like y'all. She was 41 days short of her 16th birthday, 41 days short of getting her driver's license. She was so excited about getting her license. She had a countdown on her phone. We were trying to figure out vehicles and all what we were going to do. I mean, she couldn't wait. Cameron was the kindest person, the kindest child I have ever met in my life. It literally hurt her heart when she would see other people in need or hurting. A lot of times we would be in Walmart, and sometimes you see people holding out a sign in need of a little helping hand or a meal or something. If I didn't have money in my purse, Mom, go to the money machine. I mean, we did so many things like that. And sometimes it was just opening a door for someone or smiling at a cashier. Like, she truly just had a heart for people. It was the most beautiful thing to see this in a child. So a lot of times I would get home from work because she had a permit. She wanted to do a lot of practice driving, which I wanted her to do a lot of practice driving, so that way she could have the most practice when she would get her license. So when I'd get home from work, she'd say, "Come on, Mom, let's go drive." So we would get in the car. She would put her seatbelt on, put her playlist in, and we would back out the driveway. And that girl would sing from the time we would leave until the time we would get back. It's truly one of the things that I missed most today when I drive, because most of the time I drive alone because my 3 babies are gone. But she had the most beautiful singing voice. Not many people would ever hear it because she didn't think she did. She was too too modest to ever do it in front of people. But it was beautiful. It's truly one of the things I miss most today. But Cameron played softball. She was a cheerleader. She loved gummy bears. Her last text to me was, "Mom, can you please pick me up some gummy bears?" She loved Hello Kitty. Right before she passed, Hello Kitty, you couldn't find it in stores anywhere. Now it's everywhere you look. But there are so many reminders of her everywhere, of all of them. Everywhere I go, the grocery store, they just everywhere because of all the things that they love. These kids loved life, and they lived it to the fullest. Um, so that's just a little bit about Cameron. Chases me down, fights to on down me, and I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. When you give yourself away, oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. What am I now? What am I now? What if I'm someone I don't want around? I'm falling again, I'm falling again, I'm falling. What if I'm out? What if I'm down? What if I'm someone you won't talk about? I'm falling again, I'm falling again, I'm falling. What am I now? What am I now? What if I'm someone I don't want around? I'm falling again, I'm falling again, I'm falling. What if I'm out? What if I'm down? What if I'm someone you won't talk about? I'm falling again. So this is the night of the crash. My husband got a phone call at about 9:30 that night. The crash was at 9:01, and he said it was the paramedic got my phone. So my husband answered the phone thinking it was me, and it was a paramedic saying your wife has been in a very bad crash. I need you to get to Lafayette General. So he said, well, what about my kids? He said, all I have is your wife. I don't have any information on your kids. So he called my daughter, Katie, and they also proceeded to go to the hospital. So Katie and my husband get to the hospital. Two of my sons are already here. When Katie drives into Lafayette General, my husband and her brother Shay are running toward the vehicle. She was like, what? What is it? And she said, Ren, my oldest son, just texted us and said he found out on Facebook that they're saying that, or KTC, I think it was, on Facebook, saying that there were 2 fatalities in the crash, both drivers of the vehicle. And she said, oh, we don't know that's them. Like, on her way to the hospital, she's thinking if mom is alive, there's no way, these kids may be injured, but they definitely had not passed away. So, I mean, that was just set in her mind. So she tells her husband, go park the car. They go into the emergency room. And she said, is Dawn Simmons here? Yes. Marissa Darby? Yes. Lindy Christopher Cameron Simmons? No. They said, we don't have them here. She said, well, where are they? And they said, we don't know. We don't have any information. So these texts are from the night of. She is texting with her best friend, Allie, to give her hospital numbers so that they can just steady call and try and find these kids, because in her mind, she's thinking they're hurt somewhere in a hospital, but she doesn't want them to be alone, wondering like, where's my people? So they had called all the hospitals, Opelousas, Baton Rouge, Rapides, I mean, just all the hospitals around. Nobody had them. Couldn't find them. So there was a state trooper or a policeman who was here at the hospital, and he said, look, I don't have any information. He said, but from my experience, my best bet would be just to go to Opelousas. And she said, we called him. He said, just go. He said, if something changes, we'll call you, and let you know. He said, what I'm thinking is they were en route here to Lafayette General, and maybe something happened where they had to divert to the nearest hospital. So they had nothing else to go on, so that's what they did. So on the way there, she calls again, Opelousas General, and she said, look, I called earlier. I know you don't have any Simmons children, but do you have any children who have come in there that were in a crash tonight? And the person said, yes, we do. We have a young lady here. And they proceeded to tell her, but I need you to know that this young lady has expired. So they had that way. Still, my daughter was not having it. She just didn't believe, that anything like that could have happened to him if I survive, if I'm still alive. So they get to Opelousas General. They go in. They meet with the charge nurse, and he says, can you please show me a picture can you please tell me what your sisters look like? So she's trying to tell him, and her husband said, Katie, just show him a picture. So she shows him a picture of Lindy and Cameron. And in her mind, if anything, she was thinking that it would be Lindy if this is the deal, because Lindy drove for me a lot because I don't see as well at night. We had went all the way to Monroe. We were on our way back, and Lindy just normally drove for me. So in her mind, she's thinking, if anything, it would be Lindy, but she just wasn't even, gonna accept that. So she shows the charge nurse the pictures, and he said, okay, come with me. Well, it was at that moment that she knew that she had lost one of her siblings, in her mind, thinking it was Lindy. So they go to the room, and they have this person in a body bag, a white body bag. And she told her mother-in-law, she was with her mother-in-law and her husband. She said, I can't look. And her mother-in-law said, okay, unzip it so we can see who it is. So they unzipped it. And it was her baby sister, Cameron, 15 years old. So she went up to her. She looked at her. She said she looked beautiful. She said she touched her little face, and she said, can y'all please keep trying? She said, she looks like she's okay. And they said, I'm so sorry. By the time she got here, there was really nothing we could do. Since then, we have had the opportunity to get Cameron's medical records. And she arrived at Opelousas General at 10:29, and she passed away at 10:33. So she was only at the hospital 4 minutes before she passed away. So her mother-in-law said, well, can you please give us information on her other siblings, please? And Katie had to fill out paperwork on Cameron. So about 5 minutes later, the charge nurse comes back in. He said, I think I found your brother. And she said, oh, thank God. She said, at least he's okay. And she said, well, I know he's not okay, but at least he's alive. And the charge nurse did. I'm sorry. He is at Bunkie General, and when you're finished filling out the paperwork here, we need you to go to Bunkie and identify your brother. So just so shocked. She said, well, what about my sister? And he said, oh, they still trying to get her out the car. And she said, alive, right? And he said, oh, no. He said, they've been trying to get her out of the car for an hour and a half. The crash was at 9:01. They did not get Lindy out of the car until 12:36 that night. So it was a horrible night. I don't have any memory of the crash. The last memory I have is after the basketball game. The kids were hungry. We went to eat Subway. I remember leaving the Subway at 7:06 p.m. because it was my last text from Christopher. We were in the car, and he was sitting behind me, and he texted me and said, Mom, tell Lindy to drop Marissa off at her house, not bring her back to our house. And I remember I looked back at him. I said, you texting me to tell her, sitting right there? And we just kind of laughed. And that's the last memory I have of my kids, alive and well. So here's some pictures of my vehicle. The driver's side took the brunt of the crash. Lindy was driving. I was in the front passenger seat. Christopher was behind me. Marissa was in the middle. And Cameron was behind Lindy. As you can see, there is just nothing left to my vehicle. You know, the physics of things. The drunk driver was doing 80 to 90 miles an hour. We were doing 75. The impact of that crash, I mean, a car, it's a piece of machinery. The car, every safety precaution my car had, you know, we all had seatbelts on. We were doing the speed limit. All the airbags came out. But it just, when you have that much of an impact, I mean, a vehicle just can't sustain it. You can still see the Subway cups in our car. Here's just some more pictures of it. So here's some of my injuries. I had both carotid arteries were torn, spleen laceration, collapsed lung, multiple rib fractures. I mean, I think I had 6 or 7 broken ribs. Sternum fracture. I had 3 of my limbs that were broken. It was it's a miracle I survived. When I came here to Lafayette General, they give, like people who go into trauma, they give them a number. I was a number 35. If you're given a 25 or more, you're not expected to make it. So this is January 3rd. The crash was on December 17th. My family had to get with the doctors and, you know, try and figure out when to have the funeral, when to do things, how long would I be in the hospital, and all those sorts of things. So this is January 3rd. This is the day before the funeral. The funeral was January 4th. This is at Pellerin Funeral Home on Jefferson Terrace. And this was the family viewing, just the private family viewing. I was, like, you know, in a wheelchair for many, many months because both of my legs were very severely broken. Sitting in that wheelchair behind those doors, waiting for those doors to open, to know what I was going to see behind those doors, was the most devastating and hopeless feeling of my life. Picture 3 people in your life, like 3 people that you talk with every day, people that you do life with, people who you love, people who are just a part of your life, your everyday life. At 9:01 they here, at 9:02 they gone. From something that could have been avoided so easily. Just think of that impact on your life. For 2 hours, my son Kyle, I said, Kyle, bring me to Lindy, bring me to Christopher, bring me to Cameron, bring me to Lindy. 2 hours he rode me back and forth to see my kids who were so full of life, who had dreams, who had plans, just like each and every one of you. Gone in an instant because of one man's decision. This has affected every single area of our life. There's not an area that has not been affected. The family that I had, it died that night. Family of 9 kids, the dreams, the visions, the dynamics of that family was all taken away because of one man's decision. There is nothing worth this. There's not a text. There's not a phone call. Never, never do you allow yourself to get behind the wheel of a car after you've been drinking. I know y'all are still very young, but start determining this in your hearts now. It is not worth it. Our lives are changed forever. I've had two of my children who have had to be admitted for psychiatric help because they could not handle the loss of all three siblings. This has devastated our family. But there are two sides to this. Either one, you can be the one who caused something like this. Say you survive. Can you imagine the weight of doing something like this to an innocent family? Or the other side of the coin, like us. We did nothing wrong that night. We had our seatbelts on. We were doing the speed limit. We were just trying to get home to start the Christmas break. I tell you, if God moves on your heart, puts something on your heart, don't deter from it. Always do the right thing. Live for God. Ask Jesus into your heart. There's not a single one of us in here who are guaranteed tomorrow. Not a one. Don't make the mistake of thinking that I'm going to do this now. I'm young. I have the rest of my life. I'm going to get it straight later. Take it from me. I never dreamed that on December 17th, these three kids would not see December 18th. The one thing I'm thankful for, I have a peace, and I know where they are. Don't think it can't happen to you. We were just as normal as a family as you can have. I mean, there was nothing special about us. We just were going to a basketball game and trying to get home. Something I'm sure each and every one of you has done many, many times. This is the day of the funeral. Triple funeral. 18 pallbearers. I'll never forget that morning when we drove up to the church, seeing those three hearses. I've never seen a triple funeral. I've never seen anything like that in my life. But it can happen, and it happens very, very quickly. I mean, the church was just so full of people. I mean, the lines were just wrapped around the church because these kids, I'm telling you, they loved life. And it was just stolen from them. One decision. All decisions have consequences. Some good, some bad. And you can't go back and you can't say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do this. I just looked down for a second. You can't go back. Trust me. If I could go back, I would have went back. I would have given my life for these kids. But it just didn't work out that way. So I finally had to come to a point in my life after many, many months of not really thinking that I'd be able to go on, that I would never have anything to look forward to in life again. But I finally came to a point where I said, okay, God, you saved me. What do you want me to do? Whatever it is, the answer is yes. I believe what I'm doing today is a part of that. If it touches one of you, it's worth it. This cost me more than anything I could have even dreamed of. And that's why I don't want this to be just another story. I want y'all to take it in. Let it transform the way you think, the way you think about life, what you do, because it matters.
Never be so kind, you forget to be clever. Never be so clever, you forget to And if I didn't know better, I think you were listening to me now. If I didn't know better, I think you were still around. But I didn't say that. I didn't say that. You're alive in my head. But I didn't say that. But I didn't say that. You're alive, so alive. The autumn chill wakes me up. You love me out the sky so much. Moments and frozen swims. You always go past where our feet can touch. And I complain the whole way that the car ride back and up the stairs. I should have asked you questions. I should have asked you how to be. Asked you to write it down for me. Should have kept every grocery store receipt. Cause every scrap of you would be taken from me. Watched as you signed your name, Marjorie. All your closets a backlog of dreams, and now you left them all to me. But I didn't say that. But I didn't say that. You lied in my head. But I didn't say that. But I didn't say that.
So, Lindy Simmons, October 24th, 2001, dash December 17th, 2021. Just another little side note, another difficult thing is that Lindy and I share a birthday. I never dreamed that I would be the one celebrating a birthday without her. I always would think, I hope when I'm gone that she'll be okay celebrating her birthday. Christopher Simmons, October 18th, 2004, dash December 17th, 2021. Cameron Simmons, January 27th, 2006, December 17th, 2021. So the dash, that's what each and every one of you are living now. The dash represents decisions you make, goals you have towards, your life. And actually the dash is what happens that's going to leave your legacy. What is your legacy going to be? The legacy of John Lundy, who was the driver who killed my kids, his legacy is a drunken murderer because of a decision he made. What you do now, y'all need to start today. Y'all are not too young to begin to really think about the legacy that you are going to live, because there's not a single one of us who knows when that final date will be stamped. We don't know. I pray y'all have long life, but I tell you, you just don't know. The key to leaving a legacy of honor begins with having an increased awareness of heaven, looking at things through heaven, and it's built on the foundation of hope in Christ that is sound. As we look heavenly down, good decisions are made. You just have to change your perspective on things. Everything matters. We all need to be conscious of leaving a good legacy, making good decisions. What would that look like? Maybe you're in a car with someone and they're intoxicated or something, and you're scared that if you say something, maybe you might lose that friendship. But you need to do the right thing and either try and take the keys from them, call someone, whatever you have to do. Don't get in that car. That's making the right decision. And if you lose a friend, well, I don't know if that was really such a good friend. Because I can tell you, losing that friend would be a better thing than what happened to my kids. So you need to stand up, do it afraid if you have to. Do the right thing. Those are the things that begin to build character in you, which will lead to you leaving a good legacy. So always be aware of the dash. You know, begin that now. Y'all are not too young. It'll build character in you to do the right thing. A lot of times doing the right things may cost you something, but it's worth it because nothing is worth this. Nothing. So this is the crash site. This is where my life changed forever. I can go to this crash site right now and I will find pieces of my car. I mean, my car literally disintegrated. Um, Lindy died instantly. She passed away at 9:01. Christopher passed away at 11:06, and Cameron passed away at 10:33 that night. So this is exit 40, mile marker 41 on I-49 South. And this is their resting place. I go there every day. I clean it. I make sure everything's nice. I always have beautiful flowers. You know, I was such a hands-on mom. I just feel like I have to do something physically. So I spend a lot of time here, keep making sure that where they are is beautiful. But they shouldn't be here. They should not be here. This was so preventable. So I have some bracelets for y'all. Do y'all have any questions? Okay, let me just give y'all something. I got a little something for whoever has some questions. So, so not a one of y'all have a question. So are y'all familiar with that? Or you have a question, okay? Oh, I'm sorry. No, he did not. There were 5 deaths that night. My 3 kids, the drunk driver was killed instantly, and then further down the road, they were diverting traffic, and an elderly gentleman rear-ended the back of a police car, and he was killed as well. 5 deaths that night. What is worth that? 3 young kids, just like y'all. Cameron was y'all age. And I mean, they gone. Like I said, if there was something I could do to go back, trust me, I would do it. You know, they are gone. We will have to live with this for the rest of our lives. Yes. Marissa, she broke her femur and she broke her hand. Thank God she was the least, and she had the least of the injuries. She actually is going to a junior college in Mississippi right now playing softball. So she, her and Christopher had plans. Get a shirt for asking questions. Her and Christopher were planning on going to Nichols. I mean, they were planning on getting married. Even though they were young, I'm telling you, they were going to get married. Christopher was not the type of person to go through a lot of girls. One of the things I can remember that touched me so much is after everything had happened, and I sat and talked with Marissa a little while. I said, tell me one thing about Christopher. She said, the thing about Christopher, she said, that I can say is, she said, he made me feel safe. So, girls, don't ever settle. Don't settle. Make sure your guy makes you feel safe, makes you feel good about yourself. And boys, Make y'all girls feel safe. Christopher was a remarkable young man. Um, just such a blessing. Yes. Oh yeah, yeah. They like I said, her and Christopher went to school together since first grade. Um, I go to church with her mom. You know, we all go to Our Savior's in New Iberia, and haven't been in contact with her as much since she started college. But when she comes down, we try and talk with her, or you know. Marissa was in the middle in the back. Yeah. Christopher was behind me, the front passenger, and Cameron was behind Lindy. Yeah. So, what's that? No, she doesn't. I don't have any memory of the crash. I didn't find out for 2 days that I had lost the kids. Marissa was sleeping, so nobody, nobody really saw, what happened. For the best that we can kind of understand, from kind of piecing things together, there was a car in front of us, and when it saw the oncoming truck, it hurried up and went another lane. And I mean, you can imagine going at those rates of speed. There's just no time. No, he caught from the middle to the driver's side. So the drunk driver flipped over us. He flipped and landed in the median, but it spun us onto the side of the road. So, huh? No, wasn't a ditch. It was just you know, like just a good piece of it eventually turned into like a ditch, but we were just, I mean, right on the side of the road. It spun us. About an hour and a half. But we went all the way to Monroe. It was a 4-hour drive one way. So we were about an hour and a half from home when that happened. I'm gonna obituary card. Um, this is Christopher's. This is what we were left with for his graduation: an empty chair and a sash. Cameron would be graduating this year. We have to go through another empty chair graduation. Um, it is just horrible. They honored her this year. Our first empty chair event she was honorary on the homecoming court. The empty chair things are horrible. They are the most heartbreaking thing. To see all these kids, which I love them all, to be able to go on, but I got an empty chair for kids who had so much potential, so much ahead of them. So, any other questions? Were y'all all familiar with the story? Or y'all had never heard it? No? Because I mean, we live, right by y'all. Half and half. Okay. Yeah. Because we lived in Jeanerette. The kids went to Assembly. Well, it's Acadiana Christian now. I have 2 of my sons graduated from Catholic High. But if any of y'all are interested, I'll spread these out. Y'all can look at Lindy's artwork, and y'all are welcome to have it if y'all are interested. Y'all recognize who this is? Let me see if they recognize. Y'all recognize who this is? Yep. Lindy loved Ariana Grande when she was younger. She was a very, very talented girl. So, all right. Anybody? Any more questions? So, I hope this story, I hope it really resonates with y'all, because this is real life. It's real life. These kids were just as much alive and well as each and every one of you sitting right here. And in one moment, their lives were taken. So, Like I said at the beginning, my hope is that this is just not another story, that it transforms your thought process and your way of thinking to make you have better decisions as y'all get behind the wheel and as y'all begin to live y'all life. So thank y'all so much for having me.